All right, guys, so today we're going to be making your project with value scales. You're going to be choosing either your first name or your last name to write in bubble letters or block letters, and then we're going to be practicing our value scales on your letters. So the first thing we need to do is draw your name in bubble letters or block letters. So on this paper, this also has an example for serif letters. We're not gonna do this one because this has nothing to color in. So this is the only one you can't choose. So I'm gonna show you what it could look like with both, but either way, you need to decide how long your name is and how it's gonna fit on your paper. So my name has an odd number of letters because I have 5 letters. That means I'm going to have a letter in the middle of my paper. So I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters in my name, okay? If your name has an even number of letters, so for example, if you have 6 letters in your name, you're going to have a space or a line that splits both sides of your name. So I would kind of sketch out a line and then draw both sides equally. So I have 1, 2, 3 on this side, 1, 2, 3 on this side. So this would work for any even number, and this would work for any odd number. So then once I have my spaces drawn, then I can start making my first letters. So no matter which type you do, you're always gonna start with the capital letters first. And you wanna make sure you're drawing really light so that we can erase this later. So if you can see, I drew so light that I can easily erase and there's no shadow line left. So then after you have your capital letters drawn, then you can choose either bubble or block. So they're really similar except for bubble has rounded edges and block has sharp edges. So I'll show you what both could look like. So for bubble letters, I'll draw this a little bit darker so you can see the difference. Bubble letters have a curve on every end or corner. So I'm just putting a bubble around my letter. And then if your name is long or it kind of squishes together on your paper, you can overlap your letters. So I might want to overlap my A with my N. So just kind of draw it behind the previous letter. And then if you have a space in any of your letters, like I do in my A, don't forget to draw that part. Okay, so then once you have your bubble drawn around your letter, you're going to erase that first capital letter that you made. So I just want to show you really quickly, if you want to do block letters, it's the same steps except for instead of a curve on the ends and corners, you're going to just do a flat edge. So for the M, here I have a corner, so I'm going to do a flat edge. And you can also overlap this type too if you have to. So here is the finished example if you are doing block letters. So after you're finished with your pencil, then you're going to trace your outlines with Sharpie. All right, and then if you have any pencil lines that you didn't exactly trace over, you can erase them before we color. Okay, so now we're gonna use colored pencils for this step. So you're gonna choose 2 colors that you want to create value scales with on your letters. So you can either do the same 2 colors for your entire name, or you could change your colors for each letter. So for me, I've got this kind of like purple pink and then this light blue. So you're gonna start with one color at the top, and we're gonna start with the darkest value at the top of our letter, and then we're going to fade to the lightest value in the middle. Then we're gonna fade back to the darkest value at the bottom. So it's gonna meet in the middle as the lightest. So when you are shading with your colored pencil, I like to color down on the letter like this instead of across, because it'll be a lot easier to blend. So I'm gonna put my darkest value at the very top, and I'm gonna go all the way to the edges of my letter. So if you have any spaces around like this next to your black line, it's not gonna look as much like a value scale. So you need to make sure your color goes all the way to the black lines. So we're kind of imagining that this value scale goes across the letter. Even though there's nothing right here, we're gonna pretend that this is one shape and that it would kind of be going behind the letter. So that's why I have the dark value at both sides of my M. So then we're gonna go to our next darkest value. You're just gonna lift your pencil just a little bit, and you are going to start shading a little bit lighter value right next to your dark value. So if you look carefully, I can still see a line where my two values meet. So right now it doesn't look very blended. So what you can do is take your colored pencil and color between those two values a little bit. So just kind of like blend it in with your pencil. And that will blend to a much smoother value. So then I'm gonna go to my next lightest value. So every time I change values, I lift my pencil just a little bit more. And right here on my M, I'm having a spot that starts to connect, so I can just go all the way across. And then when you get to a value that is super light and you don't think you can make it any lighter, so I've got one more, and mine goes just a little bit past the middle, but that's okay. So then I'm just gonna kind of go through and blend those values a little bit. Okay, so then I've made this purple so light, I don't think I can make it any lighter, so then I'm gonna switch to my blue. So this time, since we stopped with light, we're gonna start with light. So we want it to start with the same value we stopped at. So with your blue, you're gonna go really, really light, and you're gonna cross over that purple just a little bit, or whatever color you're using. Okay, so if I hold this up, you can see that my blue crosses into the purple a little bit. That helps it look like it's blending together. So then I'm gonna go backwards from what I did this time. So now I'm gonna get darker. And a little bit darker. Until I have the very darkest on the ends of my letter. Okay, so then last step, I'm just gonna go through, kind of blend in those lines where the values change. Okay, so there is one letter, so you can see it fades from darkest to lightest to darkest. So that is my value scale. So then for your other letters, you can repeat the same colors if you want, or you could switch your colors. All right, so we are gonna finish up our value scale names. We are going to create a shadow behind our letters, and then we're also going to put them on a solid color of paper to make it look more finished. So today you need your finished name paper. You also need a black piece of paper and a piece of colored paper in the color of your choice. So the first thing we're gonna do is cut out your name along the outsides. So if your name is overlapping like mine, you're gonna cut this out as one big shape. So I'm not gonna cut my letters apart. If you had spaced out your letters so they are not overlapping, you're gonna cut them out as individual letters. So here's one that I have just one letter. So I'm gonna cut out mine really quick and then we will make a shadow. All right, so if you have spaces in between your letters, like my A and my D, you are going to cut that out as well. So you're gonna bend your paper like this so that you can still see half of that shape. And then you're gonna cut 2 diagonal lines to make a little triangle shape. So then when you open it up, there is a space that you can fit your scissors. Then you're just gonna cut around the inside. All right, and then the shadow will only really work if you have no white paper left on your edges. So you're gonna double check, make sure that you just see black marker. If you have any like big white paper spots left, like I do right here by the L, you wanna make sure to trim that off. And then just a reminder, so here is an example of your letters that are overlapping. And then if you did not overlap your letters, you are just gonna cut out each letter by itself. So next you're gonna grab your black paper and you're going to place your name on the black paper. Then you're gonna trace around your name with a pencil. So if you are doing this with individual letters, you're gonna put your letters on your paper and trace around your individual letters like that. All right, and this time, since this is a shadow, you don't need to make the insides of your letters, so I'm just gonna leave my D and the A just like that. So once you've got your name traced, then you're gonna cut out this shape. So now we're gonna create something called offset letters. So to make your shadow, you're gonna line up your name with your shadow name. And then you're just gonna offset it a little bit by raising it diagonally. So you can either go to the right like this, or you can go to the left. So it doesn't matter, it's gonna have the same effect, but you want it to be diagonal. So when I'm going diagonal, I'm going up to a corner. So if you go straight up, it will still look pretty cool, but it's not gonna have the same effect. And then same thing if I go straight over. So this works best if it's diagonal. And that way I can see shadow on the side and the bottom. So when you have it in a spot that you think looks good, then you can use your glue stick at your table and you can glue these two pieces together. Then I've got my shadow attached. Last thing we're gonna do is add our name to a background color of your choice. All right, so before you put this on the drying rack, you're gonna flip it to the back. You're going to smooth everything out. Make sure it is stuck down on your background. Okay, and then while your paper is facing the back, you're gonna write your name and your class code for this year. All right, guys, so there is our finished value scale names. So when you're done today, you can clean up your table and put your artwork on the drying rack.